We just finished watching Talkative Try's interview with Jonathan Rogers. Obviously, we'll have a link in the description below to over to Talkative Try's content. I have a list of just a couple of small takes. Well, not small, but I took a few things out that I think stood out the most. And one of the things that was mentioned is that they are supposedly a notable on the tree that makes you able to dual wield the two-handed talisman with a scepter in your offhand. And Jonathan said something about 50% less spirit from the scepter or something. This was to help the idea of Minion Wolfpack stuff, apparently, somehow. And they also said, or he also said that there were supposed to be some sort of notables of the tree to help move rage over to your minions, again, to provide support to the idea of scaling wolf minions. Now, my original take on this topic has always been that, hey, no, it doesn't seem like we're going to be able to run wolves as the main source of minions. It seems more likely that that is something that is more thematically similar to what we have access to in PoE 1. There's a few ways you can make it do pretty decent damage. But mostly the wolves in PoE 1 is there to buff the players themselves. So that's why I was so hard locked into that mentality. But after this interview, talking to Try and Jonathan Rogers, it seems that we're getting quite a lot of things. But the rage to minions is extremely interesting because of the reverse. This would allow us not to utilize a lot of features around us, but this applies to all types of physical damage dealing or attacking minions in general when it comes to rage applying to our minions. So this is putting a lot of interesting features in mind for the idea of playing minions. My original plan was to play a Shaman Spectre build, and then in the higher end game, move over to play something like an Oracle Spectre build. Now, I might very likely say, fuck all that. We're going to deep dive the wolves, and we're going to see what we can do with them. Maybe they'll be a main source of damage output. Maybe they'll be a utility. We'll play around with it, and maybe I'll turn into a Spectre anyways in the end. But ultimately, I will be playtesting the wolves for sure, but they will also be played. I will also be doing this as a druid either way, so I'll very likely start with a shaman and then moving over to Oracle. We'll have to see all of this information as the days leading up to the launch. It's the 8th today, and the launch is this Friday. It's 4 more days before the launch takes place. Another thing that they were talking about was, like I said here, there's proper support for the wolf pack / wolf minion fantasy. I wasn't expecting this because this was not shown in the reveal or the patch notes. This was completely out of the, this was so left field for me. So I'm very excited to hear this. Another thing that they mentioned was that there was another form that they were thinking about releasing, which was a tree form, were tree. Now, the reason I'm so excited about this is because we were digging through the GGPK file, which is the file we utilize data mine from. And in that file, there was a ton of rigging metadata for something called a were tree. The problem was that all of those rigging datas were pointing to files that did not exist. So there was a lot of information there where we had were wyvern pointing to files that did exist, which is why I was so hell-bent in saying that we're getting a were wyvern form before the reveal, right? But the were tree I was less confident about. And now we get the information as to why the rigging metadata actually exist in there. So apparently, there's been a play-testable version of a were tree that they have had on their rigs in the office, which means we might, maybe, in the future, see something like that, which would be really cool. And the last thing I wanted to bring up and discuss a little bit here on stream was the item rarity. This is a pretty hot topic for a lot of people. A lot of people have very loud opinions about this, very big hot takes, and some are good takes, depending on who you're asking. But in the end, the community is rather split on this, but a lot of people are not very happy with the Magic Find stat, and some people don't care, and then there's some people that don't want to touch it at all, think it's fine. And I will just say that it seems like they are going to die on the hill. And when I say that they will die on their hill on this topic, is that they are consistently saying, oh, the community are wrong on the numbers and all those things. And my counter argument has always been, well, there's been so many people that have been playtesting this and confirming multiple times over what a big night and day difference it is between having 150% sweet spot rarity compared to no rarity in terms of not just items, but mainly talking about currency drops. And this has been a very hot topic. However, on one hand, Jonathan is saying that he would rather want to remove the modifier entirely from existence, which I don't agree with personally, but they just don't have something to replace it with. And then on the other hand, he's also saying, well, the community is wrong, you don't need it. Well, if you don't need it, why would you then feel like you have to remove it? It feels contradictory to me when he says those things. That's my personal take on that topic from what we saw in the interview. My personal opinion will always be make the rarity not apply to currency, and it's going to be just as good as it is in PoE 1. It's a fantastic modifier. I love the idea that you can gimp your character a little bit to get more rewards for it. Now, then again, we have the follow-up argument. Uniques in PoE 1 are significantly better balanced and designed than they are in PoE 2. That's a work in progress, but that will still be my personal opinion. But it just doesn't make sense to me to, on one hand, say, I want to remove the modifier from existence, and on the other hand, saying, well, you don't need it. And when they say, hey, we want to replace it with another modifier, we just don't know what to replace it with. The idea of replacing it is the idea to not make modifiers easier to hit, especially on suffixes for certain items. So they need something to dilute the mod pool with, and that's what rarity is doing right now. So when they talk about removing it, they have to replace it for that reason. But if rarity now is such a stat that it doesn't matter if you have it or not kind of thing, then it's already fulfilling that role. So why would you want to remove it? It's just very contradictory, in my opinion, to have both of those as opinions as statements in the same discussion. That's kind of like the position I'm in. However, this interview was a very good interview. It's a big shout out to Talking to Try for it, by the way. But goddamn, dude, the talisman stuff, the rage to minions, and proper support for Wolfpack. Like, my plan was play a shaman, Oracle, Spectres, test all the minion stuff, and then go play like some Gardener Spellcaster build, which I will still do. I'm very excited for that. But now I might actually deep dive into Wolves before I do Spectres, and then do Spectres, or both, and then I'll do Casters later. But I want to finish all minion stuff first and play test that and make sure the guys are updated for you guys, of course. But that's all I have for you today with this little interview we watched. We're talking to Try with Jonathan Rogers. Jesus, I keep mixing Mark and Jonathan's last names up. I'm so sorry. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe for more content. I'll see you guys in the next one. Till then, as always, stay safe, keep rocking, and let me know in the comments below what you thought of the interview. If you haven't watched it, there will be a link in the description to it. Good night, everybody.